It looks goddamn ridiculous in here, but Skype keeps like auto-correcting the light and the color. It keeps like recolor balancing everything. So I have to make it like even more outrageous. So it's like
and just Christmas.
What?
And just Christmas. You were just like, you know what? The spirit of Christmas. How about that?
I mean that's like orange, right?
That's orangey, yeah.
Okay.
But it's also kind of red, and everything else is like that's all green.
Oh fuck. Yeah, green's like Halloween, right?
No.
What's
orange and purple is typically your like.
Oh fuck me.
If you can't do orange and black, orange and purple would be like your way to go.
Welcome to the podcast. It's spooky. It's our it's our annual Halloween episode of our bi-weekly podcast, which became monthly, which became now it's just whenever the fuck we feel like doing an episode. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm James.
Oh, I'm Zach.
I'm Justin.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Halloween.
That's very spooky.
Yeah.
It's so spooky here. There's been so many infections in my house. You'd think Rob Zombie is going to make a movie about it.
You got the Rona going around?
No, not the Rona. Just everyone got the cold. And Ethan got a double ear infection. Then my wife got a sinus infection. That turned into bronchitis.
Ooh.
So just all sorts of fun stuff.
Very spooky.
Very spooky how much everyone's sick.
Oh, that sounds awful. Yeah. Oof. You've dodged it so far?
Yeah.
No.
Like I had a little bit of like nasal, like kind of sinusy stuff, but other than that, like I've been fine.
No, lucky.
But
I just got back from doing a horror convention, and I had diarrhea the whole time. Yeah.
I don't know if I'll keep this in the podcast or not, but like my favorite thing was like I'm helping Zac at this convention, and it's just me and him, and there's like people all along. He's like, I gotta go, and then he just runs off and leaves me there, and I'm like, I don't have the card reader. I can't take payments.
Nope.
I don't know what price. Somebody came by and they're like, oh, these little cards, they're so lovely. How much? And I'm like, I don't know.
Come back later.
I'm behind the table and I know nothing. Like, even if you wanted to pay for them, you can't unless you have cash.
Yeah, no, I completely fucked him and left him high and dry on that. Like, I was trying to like, I had like the tummy gurglies for a minute, and I was just like, I'm all right, I'm okay. And I was like, all right. And then as I was thinking, I'm like, ooh, I should have like a contingency plan, like to give James like a card reader and have him ready to go. And then it got super gurgly, and I was like, oh, gotta go. And just fucking 23 skidooed right the fuck out of that table.
Yeah. Anytime somebody walked by, I was like, please don't ask me any questions about anything.
The anti-salesman. Don't ask for anything, please.
So you guys have had spooky fucking infections and tummy troubles.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Spooks.
I don't know what's been going on with me. I don't know. Have you guys been playing anything spooky?
As a matter of fact, I've been playing Rocket League, and my fucking play performance is so bad that it's scary. I suck at that game again.
Very spooky.
But they're doing their like Haunted Hallows Halloween DLC bullshit season. So I've been attempting to unlock as much of their shit as I can. They got into bed with actual movie properties this year. So you could unlock stuff to make your car like Child's Play, like Chucky, or Jigsaw from the Saw series, or Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's all the stuff that you can unlock just by playing. And then the purchasable DLC is they've got some music cues from famous horror movies, including like John Carpenter's score from Halloween and the big twist ending reveal song from the Saw movies. And And then they have just like Chucky laughing, and they have like a chainsaw revving up and shit like that. So I'm probably gonna buy all that nonsense.
So
but,
is it like a jump scare when you score a goal? You like score a goal and then a chainsaw just goes. Yeah,
kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Or there's like you score a goal and then suddenly it's just Chucky laughing maniacally.
Okay.
And one of the goals is it's like it shits out a bunch of TVs, and it's got the little Saw doll in the middle, and does like the like ha, 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 and then like you could have the song music playing. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm playing it, and I'm bad, and I'm very bad.
I haven't played in a long time, so I feel like I wasn't good initially.
Yeah, it's like one of those. If you take a break, you're fucked.
But yeah,
I was gonna say,
I'm so genuinely bad at Rocket League now that like I just feel sorry for people who get like teamed up with me, because I'm sure they're probably like, oh, this guy's got like fucking he's got the super old timer like gamer tag and the whole night. Yeah, great. And then I'm just fucking awful. I miss every shot. I'm fucking terrible. I'm bad at goalie. I'm just bad everywhere. And I was like, oh, trick or treat. It's all a trick because I'm fucking terrible.
They finally got your emails though, and gave you all the IPs to download now.
Right? Yes.
Because I feel like they
want my money.
I feel like they've been jerking like Rick and Morty for the longest time. For like the last 3 years, it's just been Rick and Morty.
Very true. Well, now a Multiverses is all Rick and Morty, so now they got to find something else to jerk.
Yeah.
Man, that was like the hottest thing for like 2 seconds, and I've not heard anything about Multiverses since that game came out. I don't know if that like was like white hot and then burned itself up and then nobody's playing. I have no idea what's going on.
I heard I think I was watching a TikTok or something about it, and they were basically saying that the playability, like the actual move set and the like, is a lot more shallow than like Smash, and that's why it has no longevity. That it's like you're only able to do a few things here and there, and that's it. And it gets repetitive and it's just not engaging. And I was like, ah.
Yeah, I mean, I felt that in like 30 seconds. That game just doesn't feel good to me. Like you play Smash, like even like Ultimate, which like I don't really play it like competitively anymore, but like even Ultimate feels good. Like you pick it up and you're just like, yeah. Like Multiverses, you pick it up and it's just like, this is like
we're going backwards, boys.
Yeah.
We're going back to the previous podcast.
Oh, true.
Oh,
sorry.
All right, forward.
There's a whole podcast about that.
Oh, yeah.
So
Anyway,
check it out. We rant about it.
Spooky stuff. I've been playing the scariest game of all, Mario Cross Rabbids. It's good, but that's not relevant.
It's so good, it's scary.
That'll maybe be next episode.
Yeah, maybe. It's good, but not scary. I mentioned this on a previous episode. My spooky game that I will bring is it's a game called Immortality, and it is a FMV game. You remember those from the 90s? It is a like full motion video, so that means there's like actors. There's no, there's no pixels or whatever. It's all like filmed with cameras with actors.
It's Sega CD.
Yes.
Yeah. This is by Sam Barlow, who created Her Story and Telling Lies were his 2 previous games, if you know those. Basically, the premise of this new game, this is like horror adjacent, sort of. And I feel like it's almost a spoiler to say why it's a horror game, so I won't. There's some spooky stuff in it. But basically, the premise of this game is like, oh, you found all this old movie footage to all these old movies that like never came out for some reason, and they all star this one actress, Marissa Marcel. And so the mystery of the game is what happened to Marissa Marcel. She was like this really popular actress in the 60s and 70s, and then she like vanished, and she like reappeared for one more movie, and like none of her movies ever came out. She reappeared for one more movie in the 90s, and that also never came out. But now you've unearthed all this footage, so like what happened to this actress? You have to like watch all these like, and it's like all behind the scenes like raw footage or like rehearsal footage, but it's all like unedited, so you see like a lot of what happens behind the scenes. It's good. It's very David Lynch, which is, as you know, Zach, right up my alley. It's like if David Lynch tried to make a video game. it's very like Sam Barlow is definitely trying to make like an art movie, like, but also made a video game. I don't know. It's
Now, my question to you is, without giving anything away,
yeah.
playing this as an FMV game, is this, when you're playing it, do you look at it and you go, this is what we were trying in the 90s? This is what they wanted, but just the technology wasn't there? Or is this just like, it doesn't really make a difference?
I feel like in the 90s, a lot of what those FMV games where we're like, oh, let's try to make like fantasy or horror or you know, like sci-fi, even like I'm thinking of like Night Trap and Phantasmagoria and like I don't know, I'm trying to think of other popular FMV game, but they're like
Pumpkinhead.
They're like so like silly just because it's like, oh, we're gonna I don't know, like Night Trap is just so fucking goofy, and I don't know, Phantasmagoria is also really fucking goofy too. Just and because it's the theme is just like not the theme isn't silly. It's like the execution of the theme.
My favorite is just when like those old
like terrible actors.
Yeah, those old FMVs where they're just like they look at you and they like you messed up.
Yeah.
Like and then you got to reset. It's like it's so weird.
Even like Myst, like the like because like everyone would stare directly at you and be like, you gotta whatever. This I would say Immortality is the best acted video game, and I know that's a low bar. You're tripping over the bar. This is like the best acted video game. Like there's not even close. The acting is very. I would wager to guess that Sam Barlow just went out and hired like actual ass actors, because like these people seem to know how to act. Whereas, like, you know, most actors in FMV in the 90s, like FMV games, are just come off as like, boo, because like, you know, they're like the producer's friends or, you know, whatever.
Yeah, right.
It is very good. There's a lot of compelling mysteries and spooks. It's good. That's Immortality.
Did any moment, you know, you're not revealing anything, but did any moment genuinely like startle you or scare you, or was it just like a lot of tension building?
Yes. Yeah, the first time you find out what happened to Marissa Marcel was just like, oh.
She ate a whole chocolate cake by herself. That's the twist.
Yeah. It's you know, it's not. It is. It's weird because I think there's like a jump scare warning in that game, and I've played, I don't know, 5 to 10 hours of it, and it's not jump scare. It's like, you know, they play like unsettling music, and it's very atmospheric and whatever. And then, you know, when the truth is revealed, you're just like, oh Jesus, like, you know, yeah, it's good.
I'll try that out.
You've been playing anything spooky, Justin?
Oh yeah, something super spooky, and also addictive. It just released the 1.0 patch now, so they're out of their beta stage. I've been playing Vampire Survivors.
I've not played this game, and I know it's like super popular, so I need the elevator
I have
pitch.
never even heard of this, so bring me up to speed.
Crazy popular right now.
So pretty much it's kind of like one of those you start just on a level.
Roguelike?
It's not even a roguelike, no. It's just
I thought it was.
There are certain levels, and you just essentially attack enemies, and then upgrades pop up, and you upgrade your character's stuff, and the whole point is it's almost more like
Bullet Hell?
Kind of Bullet Hell, yeah. Sorry, that I couldn't think of the damn thing it was called. Yeah, it's Bullet Hell. So if you think like Binding of Isaac, it's got those kind of vibes where like you're getting upgrades and you're trying to create a broken build to destroy everything.
But it's not a roguelike? I thought it was like each run was like its own fucking thing, and then
there's certain roguelike qualities, but not entirely. Most of the enemies that spawn in waves, if you're playing like through the like regular levels, there is a level that has like randomized enemies. But if you're playing through the regular levels, the waves of enemies are all the same.
Okay.
And the levels are all the same.
Okay.
I think, I guess there's like certain elements where like the level kind of generates certain spots differently. it doesn't feel roguelike. That's pretty much
Would it
when
would
you're
it be
playing
fair to say like it's what are the other popular like Enter the Gungeon,
Yeah,
Nuclear
it's like that.
Throne. So it's like imagine for Zach, who I don't think has played any of these games. Imagine Binding of Isaac, but like what happens if you had like 50, maybe 100 enemies on screen at the same time? Just
Jesus.
like
Okay.
fuck, like way too many enemies. Way too
And
many.
the map is essentially you're just on a massive map as opposed to jumping to room. You're just on a big map, walking around, shooting a bunch of stuff. And so it's got very huge. Essentially, if you do end up seeing or buying the game, it's got very Castlevania-esque vibes. It literally looks like they have Castlevania's Dracula on the front. But
Yeah.
I think that they do play off that because the first few characters that you have unlocked are like Antonio Belpes and so they are playing with that a little bit. I actually just unlocked a character that is essentially Bayonetta.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and her weapons are 2 shoe guns. So
geez.
Bayonetta.
They know what they're doing. Yeah.
So that actually brings me to something I hadn't thought about, and this is a video game podcast, so it would make sense. How did you guys feel about the whole weird fallout? Let's date this episode. The weird fallout of like the voice actress
Yes.
from Bayonetta.
Bayonetta's horror adjacent. I guess that's it's topical. I don't. There's a lot of he said she said. I mean,
Yeah.
The problem is now everyone's going after this bitch because she got like caught with her hand in the cookie jar, like she got caught lying.
Right.
I think the problem is I think she still has a point in that like a lot of voice actors. Okay, so for people who don't know what the fuck we're talking about, the original. So it came out that they cast Laura Bailey, I think, who you may know. She's done just a fuckload of work in the games industry. She was female Commander Shepard, most notably from Mass Effect. Anyway, they recast Bayonetta as Laura Bailey, another popular voice actor. Everyone's like, what the fuck happened to original ass Bayonetta? So this voice actress comes out and says like, oh, fucking Platinum Games and Nintendo, they offered me, bullshit pay for this. They offered me like $4,000. And I said, no, go fuck yourself. So all you out there need to boycott this game because, voice actors deserve to be paid more. And everyone's like, yeah, let's boycott them. Yeah, fuck Platinum and Nintendo. Well, then the Platinum director, I forget what his fucking name is. It doesn't matter. Anyway.
Mr. Bayonetta.
Mr. Bayonetta. Shinji Mikami is Resident Evil. Anyway, I'm dumb. Anyway, Mr. Bayonetta comes out and he's like, "Oh, this dumb bitch is lying." He came off bad too because like he was like, this dumb bitch is lying." There's a lot of like he said, she said going back and forth. So anyway, a reporter, he used to work for Kotaku, but now he works for like Bloomberg or something. A reporter got to the bottom of this, and it was like she was initially offered like a normal rate, which was like way more than $4,000. And she declined it, saying she wanted like a 6-figure salary and something. And they were like, oh, well, we can't really do that. So they passed her up. And then they were like, oh, well, if you'd still like to come on, you could be like a cameo. We'd still like to have you be part of the game. And then that's when they offered her like $4,000 for the cameo. And that's when she was like, oh, whatever. But it was like a lie of omission. She omitted the fact that they initially approached her with like a fair rate. But like the problem is, I think the thing she was trying to raise awareness to was like the fair rate is still like bullshit compared to like movies, or just like compared to how much money the games bring in. The voice actors still don't get paid that well. True. So I don't know. That's my take, is that everyone comes off looking bad.
Yay! The end. Everyone sucks.
What do you guys think of? I can't believe it. You know that company that used to make video games? The pachinko company that used to make video games, Konami? They're back. Yeah. They're back, baby! Konami's back with 4 Silent Hill games and a movie.
Yeah.
So we've got the first one was like the most vague of all. It was like, it was like a choose your own adventure where your choices matter and death is consequential, whatever. They didn't show any gameplay, and just it was like a high concept pitch. I can't even remember what that one was called. There's like Silent Hill, but what if Silent Hill in the 1960s in Japan? And that was like Silent Hill F. And it looks like there's like weird like flowers and like buds and shit. That looks interesting.
Silent Hill F in the chat, yeah.
There's Silent Hill. The one I'm most excited for is the Silent Hill. I can't remember the name of it. Fuck, I should have written all this shit down. Silent Hill Ascension or something. That might not be the right name. It's by the developer is No Code, who did Stories Untold, which was a really good horror game. Came out like 3 or 4 years ago, maybe longer. They're like a really small, like almost indie developer, and Konami's like, here, have the Silent Hill license, make a Silent Hill game.
So they did the one thing we've all been wanting them to do for the longest time.
Yeah,
it's like just give your IP to someone else and you go do your pachinko thing.
Yes, it's like Konami is finally fucking just and we get a Silent Hill 2 remake. And none of these 4 games are being made by Konami, developed in-house by Konami.
I'm sure they're monitoring it.
They're all being produced and whatever. I'm sure Konami's sending them money. Konami's heavily involved, but like none of them developed in-house, which like thank God. Yeah. What do you guys think? And a Silent Hill movie, another one, directed by the same motherfucker who directed the first film. For better or for worse.
Well, I guess maybe now it's like, hey, here's a second chance.
Yeah.
The first one wasn't too bad.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of was. I don't know. I remember from what I remember, it was just kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
And they were just kind of throwing in the video game IPs without really explaining anything. Which I guess is kind of Silent Hill.
Was the first one the one where Pyramid Head ripped the woman's skin off in one motion and threw it at a church door? Yeah. Just include that scene in the new one and fucking you did it.
Yeah, good job.
Yeah, I think the new movie is supposed to be based on Silent Hill 2, aka the best one. So
yeah. I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting because, first of all, didn't we all want this when there was that whatever the fuck it was called, PT or something like that? That like we wanted a Silent Hill project done by someone who wants to make a scary game, and then they shit all over it and they shut it all down and took it offline and blah 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 blah. And now suddenly a few years have gone by and they're like, hey, you know what? That's actually a good idea.
But that was, at the time, that was going to be in-house Konami. That was when...
That's true, yeah.
That was when... why does my brain suck? Hideo Kojima was still with Konami, like, in-house.
Yeah.
And they self-sabotaged their own fucking game.
Did they use, like, game assets in one of their... that they didn't use in one of their pachinko machines? I think it was Silent Hill, wasn't it? Or it was either Metal Gear or Silent Hill or something they were working on. And just turned it into... Just took all those assets and put it onto a slot machine thing.
I don't know. It's on paper it seems very odd to me to be like, hey, just give away the fucking IP to a bunch of unrelated teams and just see what happens. But I mean, James, isn't that what they did like in the 90s with Star Wars? And we got some winners and some losers.
And that's why I'm excited about it. Here's the thing. Most of these games will not be good. Maybe one of them could be fun, but that's the exciting thing now is just anyone is making Silent Hill, which is how it was with Star Wars in the 90s. You could just call up Lucasfilm and be like, hey, or LucasArts and say, hey, I want to make a Star Wars game, and they'd be like, fucking whatever. Who are you? I don't
George
care.
Lucas. Okay, yeah, sure, that's fine.
And that is apparently what's now happening with Konami, because we've got like...
Karakasi sounds good. Make sure they fucking kick each other's asses.
Because we got like mid-sized developers like Blooper Team who are doing the Silent Hill 2 remake, and then we've got like tiny developer. Like, I don't know how big No Code is, but I would imagine it's like a few dudes maybe. So yeah, that's I don't know, that's exciting.
Hey, as long as there's a dog wearing a headset, that's all that matters to me.
It was all your fault, or all because of you, or whatever he says. So, Zach.
Bark, bark.
Bark, bark. Zach.
Yes.
How excited are you? for the Resident Evil 4 remake. Speaking of remakes,
I can't even, like, the closest I could say in terms of someone being hyped for this was when you were hyped for fucking Final Fantasy VII remake. Like, I am so ungodly hyped for that. I'm hyped for the changes that are already clearly being made. Just ridiculously excited because Resident Evil 4 is absolutely top tier game for me personally, and I know I'm the only person who has ever said that on the internet. That Resident Evil 4 is very good, and for a long time was the best in the series. I know I'm the first person to ever say that. And that it changed how action games and shooter games could be played. I know I'm the first person to say that. That game was very highly influential. Other very cliche takes.
I've never heard.
Yeah, I know. I'm molten lava hot over here. Anyway, no, I'm so fucking excited. So yeah, they released like gameplay footage and a trailer for the remake of Resident Evil 4, and it's so exciting to me because trying to play, we went down this rabbit hole earlier this year and trying to get Luna, who absolutely has a fondness for Resident Evil 4, getting her to play the original one. She's like, this camera's fucking garbage. I can't fucking steer this ship.
Well, it's because that game came out before we had like really codified the twin stick shooter.
Yes.
So like RE4, for those who either never played it or forgot how weird it is, it was like a single stick shooter. It was almost like GoldenEye for
a little bit, yeah.
Because you would like move normally, but then you would like hit a button on the GameCube controller to like put Leon in like shooting mode, and then the same joystick you were using for moving, you use to then aim, and that feels really weird if you go back and play it now. But I think with
modern sensibilities, that is a very strange control system.
Some of the remasters give you an option to like try to move that over to two sticks, but it's still a little weird.
And it's one of those things where, you know, as soon as the trailer, as soon as the gameplay starts, I'm immediately like, okay, this is already different. Like, just the introduction and how you're being brought into this town is already different. It's at night. There's like, it's trying to be creepier. And so that interests me as well, of like, when 4 originally came out, it was such a huge departure from the previous 3 games in terms of it really wasn't so much a horror game anymore. It was more of a horror action kind of hybrid. And it wasn't, I remember them being so big on the like, oh, you're like out in the bright sun and it's like, you know, you're out in a town, you're not in the mansion the whole time and yada, yada, yada. And so now the fact that there's stealth mechanics in this game is already interesting, of like, oh, instead of let's try to redefine the shooter and let's try to influence, you know, generations of games, instead it's like, all right, let's reevaluate this and try to bring it back around to a more traditional Resident Evil game in terms of building tension and having it be more horror based. And I'm into that too. The fucking goofy one-liners still appear to be in there to some capacity. So I'm thrilled. I'm fucking excited across the board. I'm really, really interested in playing that game because I've always loved 4, but I'm also enjoying the changes that I'm seeing them already introducing here. So
that's exactly what I'm excited for both RE4 and Silent Hill 2. Because, like, as much as I love Silent Hill 2, the original, and I think it's a masterpiece and, like, one of the greatest games maybe ever made, nobody's going to go to bat for that game's shitty combat. It's just bad. It's bad. It's bad. So anything you can do to fix the combat, like, that's one thing. You can't mess it up worse than it already is. Like, it's awful. And that's one of the things, like, I don't think RE1 and RE2 or even RE3 combat is like bad, but like one of the things that makes it so tense is like you have a limited amount of bullet, like inventory management is like a real thing in RE1 and RE2 and RE3. You really have to like, ooh, do I really want to shoot this zombie, or like, I don't know, and like, I don't know, you feel more feel more helpless because, especially in RE1, you'll shoot a zombie and he'll just keep coming, motherfucker. Like the bullets don't like stop, so you're like, oh fuck. I'm curious how they're gonna do that in RE4, because like inventory management is kind of a thing in the original RE4, but like not to the same extent RE1 and RE2. Like,
True.
You get a lot of ammo, especially near the end of the game. You'll just be tripping over ammo. And like if you start to get good at RE4, you can start doing, you know, the headshots, and then Leon can run up and do his roundhouse and all that shit. So I'm curious how they're gonna balance that, because that is still very much a thing. And RE2 remake is like, hey, you really got to be careful with your bullets.
Well, one thing that I was somewhat concerned by, or at least my ears kind of perked up, was we were watching somebody discussing the gameplay footage, and they mentioned something in passing about like it sounded like they said something along the lines of like knife fatigue, like that there's something that maybe you can't just spam the knife the whole time. And I'm like, I really don't want them. Like, don't get me wrong, I get your point of like you can kind of break the game in the original one if you're quick enough, like between the shots and then doing like suplexes and knife play,
knife until they die.
There was a way to kind of utilize that as a tool, and I'm hoping that their like balanced solution for that isn't like you just can't use the knife all the time, because it's like, come on, man, like what are we doing? So I don't know. That was like, it kind of made my ears perk up a little bit, but otherwise, I don't know. I'm pretty excited about the whole ordeal.
That'll be interesting, because like, RE1, RE2, sometimes the solution is just, oh, I'm out of ammo. I gotta fucking run. I gotta run around these.
Right.
That's not a thing in RE4. You're just gonna shoot every single fucking zombie. So are they gonna change that?
Well, like you said, definitely by like the halfway point, because in the beginning there is a lack of ammo.
Yeah.
Because they're building the tension because there's so many villagers.
Yeah.
But eventually, about the halfway point, as long as you're not being an idiot, you can pretty much maintain ammo for the most part. I don't know. I'm interested. I'm very interested. I was also in the trailer they showed the like giant monster that like chases you at one point that the dog previously saved you from and won't anymore. And I was pleased to see that, because you know, yes, there's always been mutations and there's always been like big monsters in Resident Evil, but like there's a couple things in Resident Evil 4 that are like a little like, oh, this is a little fucking nutty. And the fact that like the answer was not to just skip that entirely, I'm like, okay, good. That makes me happy.
What do you mean, like Salazar or what?
Salazar's a little ridiculous. The Napoleon guy, like the giant creature chasing you. The super crocodile in the lake.
Was it Gigantor or something?
Yeah, the fact that like the whole giant thing comes out of people's heads sometimes. Like, there's some like real zany shit in terms of enemy types.
But that was,
and I was concerned that they were gonna like either skip them or completely rework them to make them more serious. And no, you see the giant fucking creature thing that's gonna like chase after you, and I'm like, okay, good.
That's why I liked RE4, was mainly that it wasn't Resident Evil going for like it's zombies again.
Right.
No, it was more of like, no, there's like this weird wormy symbiosis thing happening, and I was like, all right, that's a good change of like pace. I like that. It was like, it's nice to get away from because I get sick of the zombie stuff.
Right.
After a while, it gets boring. So RE4 was nice.
So
I'm glad
I am curious if there's going to be like any changes to making things unkillable to add tension. James and I were talking about this previously, that like Mr. X being so effective, but then Nemesis not being effective in that same capacity. There's a couple of monsters that I think you could maybe get away with that, of like they're just unkillable, and
the thing in the sewer is on your first playthrough. The thing in the sewer is like effectively unkillable.
Right. But even like some of the spiky guys who like, you know, like shiver and like whisper and like jizz a little, like even those things being unkillable would be like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Or like chainsaw granadas. If they were unkillable, I'd be like, okay.
I'd be down for that.
Yeah. So
He's got a chainsaw. Better fucking run.
Right. And I'm really excited to see what Mercenaries is going to be like in this game, because that was my favorite fucking mode in original Resident Evil 4. So I'm very excited to see. Even if they don't change anything, even if they just leave it exactly the fucking same, I'd be like, 10 out of 10. Perfect.
So, you guys want to talk about your favorite horror games?
Yeah.
We've done this episode before in like 4 years ago, but the hosts were different. You guys weren't here, and I was looking at my list, and my list is pretty fucking different than the last episode. So consider this the most current, the most up-to-date top 5 best horror games. My number 5 came out this year. Oh God, my brain is just a piece of shit. I can't think. I was gonna mention the developer, and I can't even think.
He's got that wet brain, folks.
It's The Quarry. It's the same people. It's the same people who did Until Dawn. The developer's name's on the tip of my tongue, and I can't think of it. Anyway, The Quarry is basically like a 80s slasher, but it's a video game. So it's like it's almost like what if you made a choose your own adventure a video game. So or if you took like an interactive 80s slasher and then just made it playable, so you could kind of control what some of the characters do and whatever. It is very similar in premise to Until Dawn, their previous game. So if you played Until Dawn, it's the same fucking thing. It's basically, you know, a bunch of kids go to I think it's even set in it's definitely set in the 80s. I think, right?
Yes, it is, and it's super massive games.
Super massive. Thank you. No, wait. I think they have cell phones, so it can't be the 80s. Anyway, it doesn't matter. A bunch of kids go to a camp, and they're like camp counselors or whatever, and you know, obviously something goes wrong, and they get stuck at camp, and all hell breaks loose. And you're playing as these kids, and you kind of alternate control between. I think there's like 6 or 7 kids. In like each chapter, your focal point changes to be one of the other kids, and they're all like, you know, 80s stereotypes. There's like the nerd, the jock, the like the hot girl who's a bitch, and you know, the quiet girl who's like gonna save everyone. I don't know, whatever. They're all some amount of
cliche.
Horror cliche. I don't know. It's very good. I enjoyed it, and then there's, you know, just like Until Dawn, there's like branching paths and different endings. So like you can have like in our ending, I think 1 or 2 of the characters died because we like fucked up, or like my wife hated one of the characters. She's like, yeah, I want him to die. He's an asshole. And then, but there's like a secret true ending if you like manage to keep all of the characters alive, and there's like an extra mystery you have to solve. And if you keep everybody alive and solve the mystery, you get like the super true ending or whatever. I don't know. It was very fun. It's a great couch co-op game to like you know, I'd sit with my wife and we'd pass the controller back and forth, and it was good. The Quarry.
Okay, excellent.
Did I stall long enough for you guys to come up with it?
Yes.
I got at least
Eternal
2.
Darkness, Sanity's Requiem.
Oh, really? I didn't know you were an Eternal Darkness guy.
Ooh,
yeah,
okay,
I played that back in the olden days, and when it did the fucking tricky deal, when it shuts the TV off, or when the game shuts itself off at one point, I bought that entire. I was like, what the fuck? Like, I lost my mind as like a teenage kid. The game was brilliant. The game was really, of all the attempts in various visual mediums to capture the essence of like H.P. Lovecraft, I think Eternal Darkness is probably the best to ever do it, because it truly captured the like you're going crazy element of these like horrific things, and so many movies and TV shows and other games have tried to capture that, and just they pale in comparison. And so yeah, that's an easy one for me.
The scariest sanity effect of all, when you load up your memory card and your save file's missing.
I mean, that's why I didn't beat Final Fantasy VII, because I was greedy with Game Shark, and it fucking punished me by corrupting the file.
Got too greedy with the Game Shark. What about you, Justin?
My number 5. Hello, list. Come back. My number 5, I put Left 4 Dead.
Oh, nice. Classic.
Yeah. nice classic, and I'm referring to both because really both have the same exact feel. That was always just it was a great fun game to co-op because it's definitely one of those games where you want to murder your friends because they're not helping you.
You want to kill your friends more than the zombies.
Yeah, and you know, I like the whole there was like a certain fear factor to it, to where if you got like randomly, sometimes if you weren't paying attention, like you're sitting there focusing on the zombies and whatnot, and then all of a sudden just some one of the like heavies come at you and just grabs you and starts beating the shit out of you, and you're freaking out. You start freaking out. So there's I like that there was like a scare element to it because it was just like a first person shooter, but it's also, in a way, I guess you could say, it was almost a bullet hell in of itself. It did really well with like taking you and making you like lose yourself in having to deal with like a massive situation to where you're not aware of like the other things that are coming at you. So and honestly, I kind of almost like the semi-realism of the zombies being kind of fast and coming at you and really attacky, as opposed to like the slumpy slow ones. It's like it has a lot of good exciting elements, but it's also, I think it's got a good fear factor to it to make it a nice horror game.
Well, as soon as you saw that witch on screen, you'd be like, "Fuck no!" Like that.
Flashlights off.
Turn them off.
My number 4, I've mentioned it many times on this podcast before, but if you have not heard of it, I'm glad I got a lot of different genre coverage on my horror game list. This is a visual novel. The elevator pitch is like the movie Saw if it was an anime. This is 999. The premise of this game is like you and like 8 other people get kidnapped, and you're like put in a cruise ship, but it's like this completely abandoned cruise ship, but all the doors are locked, and you find out like the ship is sinking, and you've only got 9 hours to escape, and like there's 9 doors, and you have to get to the 9th door to escape, and there's 9 people. That's why it's called 999. It's good. It's there's a lot of mysteries. You're trying to figure out like who kidnapped you, which one of the 9 people is the killer, why are they trying to do this, like what's the whole purpose. Anyway, it's a good like mystery thriller visual novel with a lot of spooky shit. 999, 9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors.
So, speaking of visual novels, you know, we do live in an era now where watching Let's Plays and things along those lines is almost akin to watching a movie now. Just a very long and stretched out one with someone who thinks they've got a great personality. So with that said, part of that, like watching a Let's Play version of it or what have you, you would think I would go with Five Nights at Freddy's on this, but no. Doki Doki Literature Club.
Holy shit! I did not know you were a DDLC guy. Yes.
Was because I'm not really like a visual novel guy very often. So I fell for like every trap and every like obstacle and every like subverting expectation of that game, because I would just be like, okay, that makes sense.
We've never talked about this. When did you play this?
Forever ago.
Okay.
And that was because of Game Grumps, seeing Game Grumps play through it, and I was like, oh, okay, let me, kind of get through this, and just a very interesting way to tell a weird, tense story, almost in the mouth of madness at the end, just the game kind of unraveling itself, and I don't know, just a very interesting way to tell like a scary story.
Anyone who looks this game up is going to be confused because it looks like it's like a dating simulator with they're all like anime schoolgirls, but it's spooky.
It's a little more to be discovered.
There's more to be discovered.
Yeah, I was hoping someone would mention that.
Well, 999 still is above DDLC, and I didn't want to put 2 visual novels on my list, but no, I love that game.
My number 4, I have Outlast.
Oh, that game's scary as shit.
Yeah, that game is. You want some spooks? Outlast knows how to spook you. They do very well. I feel like that's like one of the games that really established the whole like kind of jump scare when you're in like a small space and give you like ominous, like you're not sure what's going on stuff. Outlast did it very well, as opposed to like some of like the crazy weird ones that people just kind of crap out, like people make on like Source or whatever, and try to crap something out. Outlast like did very well in being a game that is just outright just scares you. It's good with the jump scares. It's good with just giving you that fright anxiety. And you know what? It's also great to watch people online play Outlast. That is the most entertaining thing. Like, forget Five Nights at Freddy's. Watch Let's Players play Outlast. It is funny as shit because some of them just lose their mind, and it's just the most entertaining thing. There's one video I know that it was a few years ago that came out where I guess it's like a bunch of drunk college dudes playing Outlast, and they're all just recording their reaction, and it's just like a crowd of guys going, "Ah!" So
that's good. That's what horror is supposed to do. It's supposed to make you go Jesus with your friends.
Yeah. Well, my experience with playing Outlast was my wife, who was like sitting next to me on the couch. Just any jump scare would just scream as loud as she could in my ear. So it's just like, Jesus. Like, the scary thing was sitting next to me.
Good.
And it was your wife.
Just screaming in my ear. My number 3, so Zach, I used to be like you. Resident Evil 4 was like the end-all, be-all. Like, why weren't the rest of them like Resident Evil 4?
Right. It's a great question.
I don't feel that way anymore. I'm not sure Resident Evil 4 is my favorite Resident Evil. I'm not even sure Resident Evil 4 is my second favorite Resident Evil anymore. We've got some good Resident Evil games in recent times. I was going to put last year's RE8 on my list, but I think just edging it out is 2019's Resident Evil 2 remake. That game is fucking great. I think the first half of that game is really a masterpiece. There's just like an intense, like, you're just in the original police station from RE2, and the game does a really good job of like, okay, here's the layout of the police station, and you kind of, it's not that big, so you kind of commit it to memory, just like parts of the Spencer Mansion from the original, and it does, just like the original did. You go back and forth from one end of the police station to the other. And, there's always like, oh, but this time when you walk through, like, oh, God, there's a zombie and, something's a little different and, something's going to pop out at you. The other great thing about this, if you have not played it, is Mr. X. And
X gonna give it to you.
X gonna give it to you. There's some great mods for this, too, if you look up X gonna give it to you, Resident Evil 2. No, if you don't know, Mr. X is this unkillable giant mutant. You cannot kill him. You can only run for him. And he's always, 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 always coming for you. And that is terrifying. There are no safe spaces in the police station. Even the save rooms, he will come in and beat the shit out of you in the save room. You're never safe. And just the fact that you know that you're never safe just gives this amount of tension and like, oh my God, I gotta hurry to anything you do in the police station. Is just like, you're rummaging through like a locker, your inventory, you're like, oh, I gotta go, he's coming, and then
you hear the boom.
Yeah, you hear the footsteps and you're like, oh fuck. Yeah. RE2 2019 RE2 remake, very good, and it's my favorite Resident Evil.
Wow. For me, the next one also came out this year. The new Evil Dead. That's been awesome. That's been so much fun. So it's very much a Friday the 13th ripoff, very much a Dead by Daylight ripoff, which is now the new thing. For whatever reason, all these horror franchises, instead of just working together and all making money, now they're like, no, we'll just do our own version of the same exact goddamn game. So now we're getting a Killer Clowns one, and we're getting a Texas Chainsaw Massacre one, and nonsense. Anyway, Evil Dead, steady on the DLC, which is nice. Does a great job of capturing all those films and the equal parts scary and goofy. Great job of jump scares in that game, because like one of the traps that you can set if you're playing as the evil is when there's like a loot crate and they open it up and Ash's evil hand jumps out and attacks you, and it's like, oh, you cock sucker. Like anytime it jumps out, you're just like, oh, come on. And there are definitely moments where even though the system of the game, like how the game wants to be played, you can figure it out pretty quickly. It's still easy to get overwhelmed sometimes. Sometimes the enemies are just coming out at you like crazy. And so the final segment of the level is you have to go like defeat these like giant minions of evil that are like basically just like shooting a laser out across the map, and that'll like almost one hit kill you and all this other nonsense. What you don't realize is that they spawn on the map immediately. Like when the game starts, they're already on the map somewhere. It doesn't point you to them. It doesn't draw attention, but they're just on the map somewhere. So every once in a while, you're like driving in, Sam Raimi's car, and you're like going through the woods or whatever, and you'll come across the 3 like evil minions at the end, and you're not at that part of the level yet, and you're like, Jesus, and you fucking turn the wheel around and drive the other direction, because without like the Necronomicon, without the dagger, the game will not allow you to kill the baddies, the main baddies at the end, so they'll just fuck you up. And there's nothing you can do about it. So if you happen to cross them early, there is like a butthole clenching fear of like, oh God. It's like if you were playing Resident Evil 2 and you walked in on Mr. X taking a leak, you'd be like, I gotta go. Like, same kind of feeling. Yeah. So the new Evil Dead.
You check that out. My number 3, I put Bloodborne.
I've not finished Bloodborne because it's not on PC. I feel like as soon as I finish that game, that's going to be like one of my favorite horror games. I didn't know you were a Bloodborne guy.
Well, I dabble in the in the
demon slaying, yeah.
The demon slaying, yeah, series every now and again. I also haven't finished it, but goddamn, that game doesn't just
FromSoft is just so good at monster design.
It's the monsters and
fight a boss and you're like, Jesus Christ, what is that?
Yeah, you get to a room and you're like, oh, fucking, what is this? Like, why has it got 20 arms? Like, I don't like this. It's got tentacles. It's gonna rape me. Here we go. Oh God. And it's just, they're so good at that. But Bloodborne, I pick in particular because obviously it's all the FromSoft games, but Bloodborne I pick because I just love the design. I love that Victorian old school design, and they nailed it with that game.
They have such a sense of style in that game.
Yeah. It feels nice to move through that game, where it almost seems like if there wasn't bullshit going on, the layout of this, town, village, whatever, seems practical. Yeah. Like, it's real roads, real walkways. Like it seems like it would be a normal thing. It's not just like, it's not like Sonic the Hedgehog where like, hey, there's a loop over there.
Why did they drive upside down? From Software, monster design, world design, unparalleled. So good. So good.
And definitely got a good fear factor. It'll scare the bejesus out of you.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. My number 2 came out last year. Hey, there's a lot of good horror games coming out recently. My number 2 came out last year, and it was my favorite game of the year last year. This is, it is a roguelike card game, so it's right up my alley. It is, but it's got a very spooky, mystery spooky theme going on. It's Inscription. I don't know how to describe this game without giving too much away, and really the less you know about the game, the better it is, honestly. Basically, the quick spoiler-free pitch is that you're playing a card game very similar to like Magic the Gathering with a spooky, creepy bastard in a dimly lit cabin. And there's just lots of mysteries that unfold. Why are you playing cards with this weird bastard? Who is this weird bastard? Why do your cards talk to you? Are your cards sentient? What the fuck? So there's just a lot of fun mystery. It's also got, it's like a roguelike card battler, but it's also got elements of like an escape room in it too, because you can like get up from the table and walk around the cabin. Anyway, very, very cool game. That was my favorite game from last year, Inscription.
Yeah, I have to finish that actually.
Oh, it's good.
I'm on.
Oh yeah.
I guess I'm on a certain part. I'm not gonna spoil it, but
I've played some of this game. Don't spoil.
No, like just anything you say about this game is just like, oh
yeah,
God.
it's hard to because it's hard to not feel. I'm at the part, I'm there.
This other language you both are speaking, I don't like it. So, James had mentioned earlier about Resident Evil and all the different entries to the series and whatnot. And one game series that is kind of similar in terms of like I've played so many of the sequels is House of the Dead. Could not tell you how many times I have pumped quarters into House of the Dead 2.
But which one?
And played all those games and ridiculous shit. But if I had to pick number 2 best of all time, for me, it's got to be House of the Dead Overkill. No game has captured my personal aesthetic and sense of humor and choice of film better than House of the Dead Overkill, because they just decided to take a rail shooter and completely depart from the rest of the series, which took itself way too seriously, and made it a grindhouse picture instead. So ridiculous, so over the top. Absolutely loved that game. Played the shit out of that game. Every once in a blue moon, I'll be walking around or doing something, and every once in a while in the back of my skull, I'll still hear "Gorgasm" after you get 6 kills in a row. Just amazing. The voice acting great, storyline ridiculous, aesthetic perfect. Absolutely love that game, and I wish that they had done more with it. I know they eventually converted it into a typing version of it, which they've done with many other House of the Dead games. But that's about it. And I wish they had gone more in that direction, just because, it's like, what does a 13-year-old find edgy? But so entertaining to play. And now I'm going to try to track down what current system can I play it on. Cause I
think it's on PC, I think.
It has to be now. It was on the Wii.
I'm not sure if it ever got re-released, the original game, the rail shooter game. I don't know.
My number 4, I put the original Resident Evil 3, only because that when I think horror game, my brain always goes back to that one, because that's the one that gave me childhood anxiety. That's the thing. That's the game that made me fear things at night, because I hated encountering the nemesis when I was a kid. Like now I can get over it, but a little bit. But just the whole nemesis like coming at you and like, I don't know, there was just something about that back in the day that just stuck with me. And I feel like it's Resident Evil 3 was kind of one of the better of the, I guess, like the zombie-esque ones. I feel like they really nailed it, and it was a fun game to play. Had a great story. Had a lot of like mystery, like back end mystery to like backstory where you had to figure out. But yeah, just I call it the fear anxiety, where it's like having that like you're not sure what's gonna happen or if you're gonna kill them or So Resident Evil 3 for me.
Love it. I love that we each had a different Resident Evil game. My favorite game of all time is still Silent Hill 2. It's a fucking masterpiece. It's I think the greatest horror game ever made. We'll see if the remake does it justice or if it ruins it. It's probably going to be somewhere in between. Maybe. I don't know. It's amazing. For those who have not played the original, the remake might be good only because the original game is now like in this weird just abandonware hell now, because Konami doesn't. I mean, it seems like their plan on what they want to do with this game is just remake it and give it to somebody else. The problem is you can't fucking play it. Like, unless you like pirate the PC version or go track down your PS2. Those are like maybe the best two options. And even if you pirate the PC version, you have to like mod the fucking shit out of it because there's so many bugs and problems with the original version. There is the Silent Hill 2 and 3 remasters, which suck ass. They're like really buggy and broken because they're based on like, because they lost the original source code, so they're like based on these like QA builds of the game, and there's a bunch of fucking problems, and the voice acting's different, and there's just a lot of problems with the HD remasters, so that's not a good option either. But those are like stuck in like PS3, so like it's even hard to find the HD remasters. So anyway, the remake maybe might be the easiest way to play it. But anyway, for those who did not play the original game, it's this very like atmospheric, like dread filled, like the story of the game is like you're this dude and his wife died, but then he gets a letter from his wife and he's like, but my wife is dead, who wrote me a letter? And it's like, hey, come meet me in Silent Hill. And you go to Silent Hill and it's just this fucked up hellhole, and you're like, what is my fucking wife doing in this hellhole? And it's just like a living nightmare. But there's like, you know, there's a good mystery of like, why is his wife writing him letters and whatever. Anyway, it's a good story. It'll give you wide awake nightmares. It's the game that introduced Pyramid Head, which I found out that's not his official name. Konami calls him Red Pyramid Thing. That's his official name.
I mean, if you were freaking out and you saw that thing, I'd be like, the red pyramid thing. Like, that'd be the name you'd give it, like, in that instant.
Yeah.
If I was scared in the moment, I'd call him probably something similar, like triangle big cock or something. But
it's a very good game. The one thing it is hard to go back to because it's got like weird tank controls and the combat is indefensible dog shit.
Yeah.
that is the problem with that game. So maybe the remake can improve it, but I'm skeptical the remake is going to do justice to the rest of that story because there are like so many just perfect, just like it's perfect. Don't touch it. Like don't fuck with it. It's already perfect. All you have to do is like, you know,
make the gameplay a little bit better.
Make the gameplay better and improve the graphics. That's it. Like literally don't touch anything else. But.
So that's actually a question that I have. So unlike Resident Evil 4, are there elements of Silent Hill 2 that you're just like, don't even try to change, just leave it alone and just copy paste it as is?
Well, I mean,
because the one for Resident Evil 4 is clearly at the end when Ashley, the president's daughter, who you've been trying to save the whole game, asks if you'll fuck her at the end, and Leon's like, I don't think so. And then the game glitches and the fucking jet ski stays put, but you two go zoom off, just drift off. That is a perfect moment of cinema. Right. Don't change that.
It's perfect. Don't touch it.
I guess my point is we were watching the Resident Evil 4 one and we're like, ooh, that's different. Ooh, that's different. Is there any element of that for Silent Hill 2 for you?
I watched the trailer for the RE4 remake and the gameplay trailer, and I'm like, ooh, cool. Like, wow. Oh, my God. The dog's fucking dead. Holy fucking shit. And I watched the trailer for the Silent Hill 2 remake, and I'm like, oh, it's different. Why did they change that? Why? Why is this different? Like, oh, the voice acting's weird. Like, and I mean, obviously the voice acting from the original is weird, but I feel like that works in that game's favor just because, anyway, because of the game. Is there such thing for spoilers for a 20-year-old game? Spoilers for Silent Hill 2. If you haven't, for some fucking reason, played it, even though it's 20 years old, and you still want to keep the ending secret, we're about to spoil it. Yeah, there are some things I think they could change because, depending on your reading or your interpretation of that game, like Silent Hill 2, or the town of Silent Hill is like either some sort of like purgatory or it's all in James's head or something. So you have these other characters that are in purgatory that are there because they feel some sort of like intense guilt for something they've done. So like Eddie makes sense because he like I don't know, he like tortured animals and he's a piece of shit. And then Angela was there because she killed her father, even though her father was a piece of shit. The one character that never made sense to me was Laura. I don't get the purpose of that character. So like if that remake, if
she jaywalked once, that's a pretty shitty thing.
She seems to be there just to fuck with James, and James the protagonist, and is she some sort of like?
No, you shouldn't.
It would be nice to give her.
I like that idea of you referring to yourself in the third person when you're playing a game. Like, oh, you didn't make the jump in Castlevania. This jump is fucking with James right now.
But yeah, I don't really understand why that character's there. She's the only character, and she's the only character that doesn't. Well, I don't know. Whatever. She's not like the other characters in the game, and I don't get what her purpose is other than to just fuck with James. So I don't know if she's some sort of manifestation of the town, but all of the other manifestations of the town are like literal nightmare monsters. So like, why is there like a little kid running around? I don't know. I don't get what the purpose of the kid is. I don't know. I thought they could also change Angela's character. Again, spoilers. Like, she kills her father, but her father was raping her. So, like, I don't know. It would be a little easier if... I don't know. I guess you can still feel guilt for killing someone, but I don't know. Whatever. There are elements I would tweak, maybe. But, like, there's so much of that game that is just like, yeah, don't touch it. It's fine. It's literally perfect.
I'd be okay if like they emphasized on the story a little bit more.
Yeah.
And gave the characters or like manifestations more purpose. Now don't get too crazy with that. But just tweak it enough, like with the Resident Evil games and stuff, like where they obviously give you a bit more context because they can do that now because more memory. Yeah, I'd like to see that. I think that would be okay, but yeah.
And also, the voice acting is still gonna. I think, as controversial as this may be, I think the voice acting in the original is perfect because everyone sounds like a fucking alien and nobody speaks like a human being. But like, if Silent Hill is supposed to be some sort of like weird nightmare world or a manifestation.
Yeah, there's an explanation for that almost.
Perfect. If it's supposed to be some sort of dream place, it makes sense that everyone sounds like a stilted alien. Like, that's perfect.
It's good at making you feel like awkward.
Yes.
And
like,
out of
why
place.
does everyone speak weird? Like, please speak like a human being.
It makes you feel like it makes you feel strange.
Yeah. Like, every line of dialogue is just like, what?
Like, why are you talking like that?
Yeah. It's perfect. And like,
that's not a sentence.
And I heard James's voice actor, and I'm like, yeah, but he sounds like a human being now. And like, I don't know. It's gonna bother me, but whatever. It is what it is. Anyway, sorry, Zach, what's your favorite game?
So again, it's not always about jump scares. It's sometimes the true terror of a game is just the overwhelming hopelessness at times. So although it's been memed to hell and back, original Dead Rising is absolutely number one in terms of capturing really the overwhelming dread of just an endless sea of ghouls that you have no way of like truly killing all of them. You have to run eventually. And also kind of did the same thing as Mr. X in terms of corralling you in the mall, because there were the convicts in the Jeep outside the mall that were so difficult to kill, even when you're like powered up to shit, like still very difficult to kill. And so, you knew anytime you were crossing the grass, like you had to leave the food court to cross the grounds to get to the other side of the mall. You'd hear that dumbass fucking nu metal music playing and you knew, oh my God, I gotta run. Like, so it kind of borrowed a little bit of that same philosophy of like building tension with like seemingly unkillable, enemies. But all the psychopaths that are all like the mini bosses, the difficulty of the game at times, the use of the watch in the original one, that like there were certain things that you had to keep in mind to keep timing right so that you didn't get fucked.
I love the time management.
Yeah, and the fact that the game was, I mean, this is sort of like is this a feature, is this a bug? But like there was ways you could fuck yourself. Like if you were on the wrong side of the building and you needed to be at X spot by this time, there was sometimes you just couldn't do it. So you'd have to start over again. Never had I experienced, because it almost becomes like a roguelike in that way, because it's like literally starting the game
next time.
Yeah, starting the game over but retaining your skills. That was the first case of that really being an actual option on the table for me as a player, and not like oh, I guess I'm giving up and but just being like, you know what? Fuck this shit. I'm just gonna start over, and by the time I get here again, I'm gonna fuck all this shit up. Like that really being just another tool in the arsenal, and not like well, I guess I gotta put up the white flag and I just can't do it. First game that I really got like every single ending on, like that that game spoke to me in the exact right way, and I played the living shit out of that game and all the sequels, but that first one really does a great job of capturing both the absurdity and the real genuine tension of like a good zombie movie. And Frank West is great.
Yeah. I love that we had no overlap. That was 15 unique games. That was fucking perfect.
Hold on. We've got Justin here. This is the final nail in the coffin.
Oh, you can't ruin it. You can't ruin it now.
You say that.
Oh no.
As my number one is also Silent Hill 2.
Oh fuck.
Oh, boo.
Yeah.
I mean, that game's amazing. So.
Yeah, the game's really good. So. And you've already nailed it, so I'm not even gonna get into it.
Well, the one overlap is, whatever. 14.
The good one.
14 unique games you can go play on Halloween to scare the shit out of yourself. There you go.
There you go.
And some good mentions. We got like not forgot, but like Dead Space is a pretty good one.
Yeah.
Isn't Amnesia supposed to be good?
Yeah.
I've never played Amnesia.
That game was also scary as shit, but that's like one of those games I played when it came out, and I was like, "This is scary as shit," because like it was also like stealth, like you had to hide. You couldn't. There's no combat. You just had to run away and hide from everything. I don't know if that's still gonna retain the same. Like I feel like that game's like, God, that game has to be at least 10 years old now.
Yeah.
I don't know if that retains its scariness.
Looking at a few lists, a lot of them mentioned PT, which I know is the one with like you walk around in the house and take pictures and.
The Silent Hills prequel that Zach mentioned earlier. PT is also very scary, and it's, I guess, a shame we'll never get to see what Silent Hills would have been. I noticed the Silent Hill 2 remake trailer sort of visually references, because like there's a cockroach on the floor of the Silent Hill 2 remake trailer, which like a cockroach was like one of the visual metaphors in PT, so it seems like they were like trying to like, look, you still got it, it's Silent Hill 2. Like,
it's
no,
the thing. Yeah.
Like, no, motherfucker, that's not what we were promised. You stop that. But anyway, whatever. You guys
so go play some spooky games.
I'm gonna endorse real quick. I watched one of this is like I watched this last year too, and the year before. This is like one of my like favorite Halloween movies just to watch. It's the 1950s House on Haunted Hill with Vincent Price.
Yeah.
I love how fucking silly it is. I love it. I watched it like with riff tracks. I don't know. I really like that movie. It's like, it's just kind of silly, and like there's the skeleton on strings that comes out and pushes the lady into and it literally does like this to like push this lady into, and it's like very obviously just a skeleton on strings. Like, what? I don't know. It's very silly.
Anytime I think about House on Haunted Hill, I always think of like the maid, like the caretaker on a skateboard, because because she's like, she looks terrified. Yes. But she just glides. Yes. She doesn't walk. So I think it was like the first riff tracks made that joke about like, oh, it's Skating Granny, because she's just like gliding across the screen. Yeah. And so I always think that. I was just like, yeah.
And then more modern, discovered Heelys.
Right, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. House on Haunted Hill, the original Vincent Price version. You guys got any scary movies to endorse?
Well, the current one right now that's making people like throw up in their seats is Terrifier 2.
What the fuck is this?
So there was a independent film called Terrifier what came out a couple years ago, and really was just focusing on creating a new sort of like horror monster in Art the Clown, who kind of looks like a mime. It's like a black and white clown, very creepy looking, and just unbelievable gore and violence. And so they made the sequel this year, and it's already made like 5 million in theaters. But there's like people talking about they're like fainting and they're vomiting. The big kill in the first one is Art the Clown hangs a woman upside down and then just chainsaws her from like opening to neck.
Oh.
Like just chainsaws her straight down the middle.
Okay.
Like just ungodly amounts of gore. And so the second one's doing remarkably well. So good for them.
Interesting.
It's some fucked up shit.
I mean, I don't really have any scary movies, I guess.
What's the scariest thing you've made your kid watch?
Ooh.
Come on, you've definitely showed him something that you're like.
You showed him like 10 minutes of the.
You know what? I know one. Blippy.
I was gonna say Blippy. I was like, don't not steal his joke.
Coco Melon.
Oh.
They're
like
horrifying.
One of those. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the guy from Blippy like definitely used to do like videos for pay of him like shitting on people. So there you go.
Yeah.
Blippy is shippy.
Don't know what we're talking about? Go look it up. Blippy, the guy who plays Blippy.
Shit on people.
Google Blippy shit video and see what happens.
The scariest thing we've recommended.
2 Blippies, 1 cup. Go Google that.
And there you have it.
Which actually makes sense because now there are 2 Blippies.
There you go. 2 Blippies, 1 cup. Happy Halloween, everybody.
But if I'm going to recommend anything, I will recommend visiting the Auburn campus. That was actually, we did that recently for a wedding.
Who the fuck in your family goes to Auburn?
No one. We went for a wedding.
we just showed up and they didn't tell us to leave.
No, someone's wedding was near the campus, so we stayed on campus because that was the place to stay. If you stayed anywhere else, you were in.
I was wondering why the fuck you were wearing an Auburn shirt. I was like, what?
Yeah.
And
it was cool going there. It was because one of our friends is actually a big Auburn fan, and one of the cool things is like it's a college, but it's also like a town. So it's just like a town with stores everywhere, but then also like there's a lecture hall right there randomly, and I don't know, I just like the whole look of it. And one of their fraternities had one of those 12-foot skeletons, and they had them all decked out wearing like a Hawaiian shirt. So
it's Party Dad skeleton. All right, I'm into it.
But it was a cool campus to visit. So.
Very spooky.
Spooky as hell.
What an interesting life you lead. What an interesting life you lead.
There you have it. We got horror games, horror movies, and go visit Auburn.
Go visit Auburn. Go to the coffee shop.
I'll tell you, the
party
drive's a little scary.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah. Who the fuck knows when our next episode is? We're kind of on a whenever the fuck we feel like it's scheduled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll all play Mario Rabbids, and I'm gonna get James to figure out how to get House of the Dead Overkill on some kind of modern system for me.
We can just emulate it on Dolphin.
Yeah.
All right.
Allegedly.
Oh,
Whatever.
Don't go to jail, James.
Allegedly, we're
Nintendo
gonna
shut us down.
Yeah, Nintendo, come get me, Nintendo.
We just lost our sponsorship. Great job.
For the Good Games podcast, Nintendo is now the monster that you can't kill, and he just keeps
coming. Kill him.
Nintendo's lawyers. You can only run from him. For the Good Games podcast, I'm James.
I'm Zach.
I'm Justin.
Hey, we'll see you next time. Goodbye, and stay alive.
Spooky?
Stay spooky. I don't know. I was trying to do I don't know. Whatever. Fuck it.
Oh, there was a sign at AEW tonight, and it says, Street Fighter 6's composer put less effort into his job than Orange Cassidy.
I don't know who Orange Cassidy is. Otherwise,
Orange Cassidy is a wrestler whose whole gimmick is that he's very lazy. So like he doesn't even muster the strength to give a full thumbs up. So like in photos, like that's his thumbs up because he does that.
That's like one of the hot takes right now. It's like, oh, Street Fighter 6, it sounds like shit. Like, which Max pointed out that everyone has said that with like every Street Fighter, because like Street Fighter 3 was like super jazzy and like hip hop jazz, and it's like, oh, it sounds like shit because it's not like, you know, classic Street Fighter 2, and then like Street Fighter 4 is like, oh, it's too electronic, it sounds like shit. And now this is like, I don't know, rap hip hop, and everyone's like, oh, it sounds like shit.